insurance under Dr. Roach's office. So like right now with my new practice, when some people call, if it's like a woman, she's like, I need a complete physical and I want to see you. I'm like, well, I can't do your pap smear at my new office in Georgetown, so I always send them over to Midway and get that done and then see where they want to go from there. What else? What were you dying to know that I haven't hit on? Anything? What kind of thoughts did you have going into it?
You spoke about sugar being one of the worst things. Hearing so much about inflammation, being inflamed, and that can even cause joint problems. What, we know sugar is the bad guy, but of course, me and probably most people in here,
Oh, I'm sure, totally addicted, I think. I'm sure, I love chocolate.
yes, I guess just finding the balance. Some people here are not eating any
Right.
grains or,
Right.
meat. I've been
Yes.
eating a lot of wheat today.
Right.
It's not like our ancestors.
Yes, and you're reading all the correct things, right? So, yes, again, I kind of live more moderate, and I also live in the real world. I have kids who go to baseball and gymnastics, and you're exposed to different things. But we do know the grains, and grains used to not be a bad thing, but we've modified them so much where we can feed a lot of people on a wheat crop, because that grain now has become so resistant to the climate, resistant to parasites, resistant to fungus. It just outlives all of those things. So our theory is when it comes into contact with our gut, our body now doesn't have the ability to break it down effectively. So now it's undigested particles hanging out in our gut. It's causing damage within the gut. And the simplest way to explain leaky gut is if you have that hose has a hole in it basically. Now what's outside of that hose, so your bloodstream, can get exposed to what's on the inside. And so your bloodstream, when it sees something foreign, it's like, wait, you're supposed to be in the gut, not over here in the bloodstream. It's going to send out its antibodies and it's going to attack, and that's where you have an inflammatory cascade take place. So again, that manifests differently for different people. People with eczema and psoriasis and different skin problems, often it's dairy that makes those things worse. The joint pain with autoimmune patients can get worse. So I don't like to tell people, don't ever touch those things ever again, but I do tell people, do you have to have bread in your house? Maybe it's just for like Sunday dinner and you just don't want, I don't know, maybe you went to Cracker Barrel for breakfast with your family and you just wanted that biscuit so bad. It's not, that biscuit has no redeeming value to it, but it sure tastes good sometimes on a Sunday morning breakfast. But with grains, if you know the grain and you know it's a grain that's been not been modified, then I don't think it's a bad thing, but it's really, really hard to find those now. Wheat and corn and gluten tend to be the worst mediators for inflammation as they come into our bodies here in this country. So a lot of people switch to almond flour, coconut flour, different types of nut-based flours, but almonds we're finding can be a source of a lot of inflammation for a lot of people. So gotta be careful there. But the thing I have with food and diet, and I'm sure Dave, I don't know, I feel like you probably run into this too, it's depending on the client's personality and where, again, I'm not a psych person, so I can't diagnose somebody with OCD, but some people can get very rigid in their lifestyle and what they eat, and I don't want somebody who's sitting there thinking of everything that crosses their lips and how that's going to react in their body. I think, enjoy your encounters with food, but make smart choices. But if somebody just made this amazing chocolate cake because you're at a birthday or an anniversary, I don't think it's a bad thing to enjoy that with that person or have a glass of wine occasionally. But when people are just that rigid, or when they're that rigid with their children, it kind of bothers me a little bit. So I'm like, now we have a whole other set of health issues, and it's from the mental health standpoint, where you're just not enjoying your life because you're thinking of every single encounter, that you're having with food. So that's, to me, opens up a whole other realm of health issues, but in a different way. Does that make sense?
It does, but I wanted to add to that if I could, even though I'm
Yes.
not the medical practitioner.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people who are diagnosed with depression, attention deficit disorder, all kinds of, panic attacks and things like that. They're finding more and more, at least this is what I've been reading, that a lot of these things are triggered by inflammation going on in your brain, and your brain doesn't have any pain receptors. So you've got this inflammation going on, and it's causing, you know, your child has this inflammation going on, and they're saying, put the kid on Ritalin. I'm going to tell you that they put me on the highest dose of Ritalin. I was formally diagnosed with attention deficit disorder. One of the worst cases that they'd ever seen. Did nothing for me. I didn't even lose weight.
Yeah, I know, right? You're gonna be on a stimulant, you better be skinny, gosh darn it.
I thought, well, heck, if it doesn't work, maybe I'll finally be able to lose the 45 pounds, but it didn't work out that way. And what really did flip the switch when I was telling you about the stroke was the food.
Yeah,
The
it does.
food.
And there's the big thing for the gut and the brain connection is, of course, he wrote The Brain, neurologist. I cannot remember his name.
Perlmutter.
Huh?
Dr. Perlmutter.
Yes, Perlmutter, thank you. And then he wrote this is the follow-up with the gut connecting the second brain. So it's fascinating stuff, but you could go down the rabbit hole and then be scared to even walk out of your house and breathe the air. So I don't like people to do that. Another thing with the grains, you know, if I have somebody who comes in and they're morbidly obese and they want to lose weight, they're usually very successful when they cut out the grains, because the grains are often associated with high carbohydrate foods, so your breads and your pastas, things like that. So if you're trying to lose weight, most people are very successful when they limit their carbohydrate consumption. So if you just say, well, I'm not doing bread, that cuts out a large portion of that. The USDA, it used to be the food pyramid, now it's called the plate, I think. It's not a diet that is appropriate for lowering inflammation in our body. That being said, I was just in there, I kind of dove into their recommendations this week because I'm working on a presentation for a conference, and some of their recommendations aren't bad. It's what we as Americans are consuming every day. If you look at charts, what we're consuming every day is up here, and what they're recommending is down here. So I'm like, well, I guess we can't totally bash them like we do in integrative medicine. I think they still could do better with their recommendations, but again, it goes back to personal accountability. We're still eating way more as a society than what they're recommending. So, but no, the inflammation from the sugar in the grains is huge. So, and cow's milk, unfortunately, has become a problem for a lot of people too. A lot of people get raw milk. It's supposed to be illegal, but people get it. They know farmers and they get it. So if you get it, great. Yeah.
Your thoughts on the ketogenic diet?
I don't like to think I don't think what diets are one size fits all. I know we have seen tremendous success with people on the ketogenic diet. I'm not sure it's sustainable for most people long term, because some people do 20 grams of carbs a day. I think a saltine cracker has more than 20 grams of carbs. I don't know, right?
Pretty
I have
close,
to look
yeah.
at Dave for these things, yeah. So I'm like, but because once you blow it, you've really blown it. If you take in more carbs that day, you've
Screwed yourself.
right.
Yeah, it takes several days to get into ketosis, so if
Yeah.
you get out of it, it's going to take you several days to get back in.
Right.
But you know, also depends on what you're talking about. If the person's otherwise healthy versus if you're trying to do something with like a diabetic. You know, because the recommendations for a diabetic are right now they're still like eat 50 or 100 grams of carbs a day, and it's like why?
Right.
Because that's what sets everything off.
Right. Yeah.
What about intermittent fasting?
I love intermittent fasting. I don't know how Dave feels about it, but I feel, again, and it's kind of anecdotal when I hear people come into the practice and they've been doing that, they feel really good and they're losing weight as well. So at the end of the day with weight loss, it's still an equation. You know, if you have it, you need to have a deficit. So you have to have a caloric deficit or you have to have an increase in physical activity. It's still an equation at the end of the day. So I freelance over at Ageless Weight Loss 1 day a month in Lexington and Louisville. And I'm not a huge fan of what they're giving their clients. I don't do the weight loss counseling, I just do the medical stuff and make sure everyone's safe medically. But it's those behaviors. So they're successful because they're teaching people to modify their behaviors with how much they're consuming every day. So I'm not a big fan of the packaged food though. I just don't think that's good stuff. But it's still, and the research, the scientific research shows even with keto, there still has to be some sort of deficit. You gotta, if you're gonna take in, you gotta put out. So.
5 pounds of cheese.
If
Well,
you eat
that-
5 pounds of cheese, you never poop again. I worry about balance. And that's another thing I have about keto. It's like, I'm not sure that people have a propensity towards, you know, some of the cholesterol issues. I don't feel like everyone needs to have normal cholesterol. I don't like statin drugs. A lot of people in healthcare field don't even like statin drugs. But yeah, I just don't. I don't think it's the right thing for a lot of people. But I will say a lot of people, if you're trying to lose weight, a lot of people have been very successful with the ketogenic diet. Sustaining a ketogenic diet for the rest, it's not for me. I'm not going to do that the rest of my life. So yeah, I think for me, it's truly deficit and output, how much I'm exerting output-wise. And I look at all the women in my family, and it's not meant to be for me to ever be skinny genetically, so it's a battle every day. So yeah, and it's hard. And also, and ladies, you'll love this, because after menopause, women always say it's hard to lose weight, it's hard to lose weight. I'm not there in my life yet, but the research validates that. So now you have validation. It's not just, you know, oh, it's because it's true, everything slows down. I was in some research this week, and you know, if you look at not just the human females, but females across the mammalian species, because of hormone shifts, so like at the very basic level, animals, you know, they want to breed at some point. So when that drive, that hormone shift, same with women, you know, when we're in that ovulatory phase, innately we're supposed to go get pregnant. So we're not going to be as hungry. Our drive to eat is not as high because of that estrogen shift in our hormonal cycle while we're in the menstruating phase of our life, so premenopausal. Because our body says, wait, you're not supposed to be working on trying to put on fat, you're supposed to be trying to go get pregnant. And then, you know, when we don't get pregnant and now the hormone levels shift and we're getting ready to start our period, that's when we want to eat everything. That progesterone drives our food cravings. Well, after menopause, you don't have all those hormone shifts because the hormones are like, they're gone. So then you don't experience that little estrogen helping you maintain your sense of satiety or hunger control. So it's true, we do have a crutch, Dave. It's harder is what I'm saying, because those hormones can help. And actually the research validates giving women hormones to help manage weight, but they can't officially validate that, but they say, while we can't use hormones as a weight loss mechanism, it can certainly help a woman in terms of her efforts. So, yeah, it's fascinating stuff. I love research.
Yes,
Yeah.
you can get yourself completely buried.
And when you
do.
Yeah.
When you look at research, you know, everyone says, oh, I read online. The worst thing any clinician, whether they're a holistic clinician or a conventional clinician, hates well, when I got on WebMD, when I got on Dr. Google, when I got on all these things, normal non-academic people can access good research. PubMed, that's what's the legitimate research, and it's managed by the National Institutes of Health, has true research articles. And also, if you go to Google Scholar, you at least can put in a topic and find the articles, and then you go to PubMed and like pull them off. Or if it's an article where you actually have to pay to get, I would just go to your public library. If it's an article you really, really want, say, I need this article, it was written by these people in, I don't know, some university in Australia, or maybe it was at University of Louisville, something. The librarian there can get it for you. Or if you have access to an academic library, if you have children in college, or maybe you teach at a college, then you can get it from your academic library. So try to go with the research and look at the data. You need to look at how many were in the research study. Were their results significant? And you don't always need significant to have results, but statistically speaking, when researchers put out an article, that's what the research community wants. Did this population lose weight on this drug, and was it a significant, you know, was there a degree of significance based on a statistical equation? That's what people want to know. So I was just in some research too this week, because I have this presentation coming up on weight management as women age. And so the article clearly states, well, these women in this population who took this particular supplement or medicine, several of them lost weight, but not with statistical significance. So the drop was not statistically significant, but there was some drop. So, what else?
Do you need a case study for that?
Do I need a case study? Yeah.
I volunteer.
I would be an excellent research assistant. I got my doctorate, and then I was like, I never want to take another class in anything ever again. But it is really fun when you start looking at research, because then you get in one article, and then you see how they've cited in other articles, and you go down this. I mean, you get way. So I'm like, in my next life, maybe I'll be a research assistant, so I can pull all the articles for the researcher together. So, But it is good, but I always say, if you're gonna look at stuff online, go for the good stuff. It's not just what somebody's blogged about, but that being said, there's a lot of pretty savvy bloggers and women and men who have had experienced different health conditions and have shared some pretty interesting experiences, so.
Where to start, if someone start with, looking for hormones or taking a hormone test or food sensitivity test? Because I know that a lot of these symptoms can be like tied,
Yes,
and
yeah.
one symptom could be, is it caused by my hormones, is it
Right.
caused by food sensitivity, and how do you
Yeah.
like, which route would you?
Right, I tend to favor, I tend to lean towards cost effectiveness for the client, to be honest with you. So I'm like, what can we get your insurance to cover with the blood work? So we would do like a complete thyroid panel and hormone panel on the blood work, and also think about elimination diet. So if somebody truly can't afford to do a food test, I say, okay, well, here, eliminate the sugar, eliminate the grains, and think about eliminating the cow's milk dairy for a while and see how you feel. And also bring in some of these basic supplements, do the probiotics, maybe some L-glutamine, depending on the person. That's an amino acid that can help rebuild the gut lining. And see if we can make some strides there, and then revisit the issue. And then it's like, well, things are still going on. I really need to know what foods are triggering it. Then we go to the food testing. But the big three that we see: autoimmune issues, food sensitivities, and hormone imbalances. Those tend to be the big three for root causes for people.
Does fasting and accomplishing autophagy help clear any of those?
Fasting is a great way for your body to detox. And there's so many modalities for that. Some follow the Ayurvedic tradition based on the moons, the cycle of the moon. But it is an excellent way to detox your body. I'm not disciplined enough to fast. Or when I fast, it's by pure accident because I haven't had time to eat.
I don't think that's really called a fast.
Yeah, no.
They call that the warrior diet.
Right, exactly. So, no, it is worked very well for many people. I don't know if you have thoughts on intermittent fasting, but
I think it's too complicated for most people.
yeah.
It's an advanced method. If you have the basics down and you've gone from using your hands for portion sizes to counting your calories, that's the next step, is to start doing intermittent fasting. It's not for beginners at all.
Yeah,
It takes a lot of control.
yeah. Well, there you go. He knows, but I think it's just being smart about what you're putting in your body, and I think it's really, really hard in this country. Again, at the end of the day, I think we all need to be personally accountable, but our lifestyle and our society does not make it easy for us. We have to work harder at it. And we don't wake up every day. I think I told Dave this story. I was at a meeting once, and there's an individual in Lexington who does a lot of training and nutritional counseling for clients, and he has his own business. And he got up at this meeting, he said, "How many of you chopped a quart of wood this morning?" How many of us did? None of us. We rolled up to the drive-thru, gave them $5, they gave us 5,000 calories. That's how he equated it. So it's true, if you are out chopping a quart of wood every day, or if you have to actually work for your food, like the hunters and gatherers that preceded us in life, then there's no weight issue. And they're eating real food every day. They have to prepare their food. Nothing comes in a box. There are no Lucky Charms. There's none of that. The other thing on that tangent, and I know we've all said this, when your provider asks you, so how do you eat? What are you eating? Well, I eat really well. I eat really well. I'm like, what does that mean? I eat really well. So you have to really dig deeper. So we'll dig deeper on that. I can be very cynical and sarcastic. If I get to know you, it's usually embraced. It's fine. But I'm far from perfect. I am the most imperfect person there is. So my entire breakfast, lunch, dinner yesterday consisted of kettle corn at a gymnastics meet in the most godforsaken place that ever was, and that's Columbus, Ohio. Sorry if you're from Columbus, Ohio. So that was my downfall for and I mean, this morning I felt it. Everything, I always gauge my fingers and my wrist, and I can just feel that inflammation in there. There's a bunch of puffiness happening. So, yeah, but it's life. Life happens. Yeah. So you just, when you fall off, you get back on. But you do have to move, and you do have to make pretty smart decisions. And you don't have to be on a lot of different medicines. So, but if you're that poor guy that I had a couple weeks ago, I actually called him over the weekend and followed up because that was pretty hard on him. And you're maxed out on drugs, and your blood pressure is 180. Yeah, you're gonna get an earful from me probably. Yeah, you know what I'm talking. The people who literally look like you just pop a needle in them and they're just gonna explode.
Yes.
Those are the people that, yeah. So, you can do better. Oh, that's a good question. We're working on that. For sure, I'm here on March 21st. And we're gonna try to pop in maybe another partial Sunday in that mix. So, I'm in this transition right now, so, trying to get my business going and step out of my regular practice and, not, be homeless over it. So I'm in this transition right now, but I think this is gonna be great because I had not even thought about coming over here to Louisville until Cheryl and Dave approached me, and I think it's gonna be really great. It's just getting it going. What else?
Questions?
Somebody wanted to see you sooner, they would just go away.
No, we might be able to work something out sooner. How soon are you talking?
Anna could die at any moment.
We
Right
call
now.
by any moment. You're gonna have to come up with something better than that.
Not my last word. I usually wait till something gets like horrible and falls off and then I deal with it.
Huh,
So,
okay, yeah.
typical.
That's not typical. Most men have a head cold and you have to call the funeral director. So it's not typical, man. Sorry, see, there's the cynicism and sarcasm rolling in. I feel like it's women who are literally like, they're the ones who have a heart attack with no warning sign because they just go, 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 they ignore their signs. So, yeah. I think I'm pretty fun to hang out with most days. Some people in here might be able to attest to this.
No. We love you.
Oh, I love you.
No, no.
I love it.
So I want to know what you found out about, and everybody who knows me knows I'm going to eventually ask this question. What have you found out about the connection of things like canola oils and pesticides and leaky gut?
I haven't researched it directly, but we know that
We know.
the food supply has changed so much, and people are getting sicker. So, and there are testings for the glyphosates. I have to open an account. Dr. Roach has testing there where you can do glyphosate testing to see how much your body's been exposed and is managing its exposure to glyphosate's Roundup.
Which is what we kind of determined was going on with me. I showed food sensitivity to celery. What's in celery?
Right,
You know,
okay.
like next to nothing.
Fiber, yeah.
But 35 pesticides if it's conventional. So, you know,
Yeah. Well, and I mean, if you look at like strawberries, I mean, should a strawberry be that big? That's genetic modification coming into play, being able to feed more people. So that's what I mean too. It's hard to be a consumer in our country now because it's flooding our groceries and everything. So it's very hard to eat good stuff.
It's more expensive as well.
It is very expensive, yeah. I know. It's like you need a garden and grow everything yourself. And still know the source of your seeds. Or just have good friends and have a community, or get to know your farmers. A lot of people are going with those co-ops now where they what is the,
CSA.
yeah, CSA, so I can't think of it. I know we have a good one. Yeah, there's
and there are other ways too if that's not your budget.
yeah.
Like looking up what some of the dirtier produce is and things like that. You know what I mean? So you don't definitely, conventional strawberries, I don't advise it. But organic, yes, I will spend the money for that. But strawberries are expensive anyway. And so certain things that, avocado, not so worried about necessarily. So kind
I
of goes
think
like
too, in
that.
learning how to eat what's in season, then you're gonna have a better access to, a better price, even if it's organic.
Yeah.
We're trying to grow what you can too. That's hard, especially if you live in the city. Well, I live in the country, it's so hard for me, but, yeah. Just getting to know those resources, like you said. Because they're around, and that's one beauty. I don't love everything about social media, but it is very helpful for connecting people in those types of realms. So I know there's a few CSAs around Lexington that are very good. So, but that's the thing with the CSA is you eat what's in season. So that's good. It expands your palate, makes you learn how to cook new things,
I
especially in
think the biggest
fall.
thing for Americans is we eat out too much.
Absolutely.
The portions are way too big. Number two, you don't know what they put in there.
Amen.
And you wonder why you gain weight over the weekend, and you work all week to lose that weight again, because you're eating at home.
I know.
And you go out with friends on the weekend again,
Yeah.
and you'll
I know. Yeah, absolutely.
up and down.
Yeah, and sometimes you have to be a bad friend. I had one friend, she ate out all the time, and it was,
You can't lose weight.
well, she was, I mean, she had an issue with weight, and she would invite me out all the time, and I would just say, no, I can't, and I knew why I couldn't. I knew if we went to a Mexican restaurant, game over. You know, the chips, forget it, game over. So they just can't live in those types of foods I can't have in my house either, because it's just, the temptation is too strong. Some people can have all that in their house, and they're fine. I'm not one of those people. So, yes, eating out, I have turned down that invitation from lots of people. Alright. Now you're be thinking like, can we get the salmon? Always get this, but then again, you don't know what's on it. Yeah, it's probably farm raised, and then there's probably a glaze on it. So
There's just a huge difference though between going out to eat and going through the drive-thru all the time. And that's really, I think, more of a temptation for Americans as far as Americans go. But, I mean, you know, life is not worth living if you can't do a little bit.
I totally agree with you. I completely agree with you. No, I
There's
mean,
a balance to be achieved somewhere in here.
that's what I totally agree.
I
That's
can drink 6 gallons of water and probably be good for you. The water's really good for you. So you can overdo.
Absolutely.
anything.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's why I favor moderation. If you see me at the ballpark this summer, you're probably gonna see me sin, and I'm not gonna feel bad about it either. Because if I'm sitting at a ballpark for 6 hours on a Saturday, I'm gonna, you know.
Have a ballpark Frank.
Yeah.
No.
Right, or I might not have had time to, I mean, there are some of the baseball moms, and they have a cooler full of great stuff, and sometimes I'm that mom, but some weekends I can't get it together. But I do try to bring healthy
staying
snacks.
away from drive-thrus is the best thing.
Absolutely, absolutely. And that's, what does that drive us to do? It drives us to eat very quickly. Well, that's the thing, we don't eat in a peaceful state, we inhale our food. Just chewing your food sends signals from your brain to your gut to start releasing the enzymes it needs to get the most nutrients it can out of the food that you're eating. So you need stomach acid to absorb B vitamins. What is one of the most #1 prescribed drugs in this country and over the counter? Pepcid, omeprazole, Prilosec. You know, they market it, you know, that big comedian, get her done, that guy, he lets you know you can eat whatever you want as long as you got your Prilosec, it's all fine, it's all fine. So, it's not fine. Those drugs, and the journal, it's either New England Journal of Medicine or the Journal of American Medical Association, link those drugs to dementia. True science, true link. And coming off those, right. And then and I think part of it is because when you block that stomach acid too, you're not getting the B vitamins. B vitamins support your nervous system. If you're not supporting your nervous system, there goes your brain. Your brain's the main driver of your nervous system. So, and those drugs are harder to come off of than a lot of the psychiatric medicines. They're so hard to come off of. And they're just, Costco sells it in, Costco quantities. You get Prilosec, like 4 bottles of it. Yeah, it's crazy. I know, but we still have to live our lives. We just have to work harder to do the right thing. I think.
So will you be scheduling appointments today this week?
Yeah.
And I've already booked one for you.
Sweet.
So I'm saying if you're thinking about it, don't think too long.
Thank you. I mean, I didn't know what to expect. I thought there might be 3 or 4 people that came in, so. Dave's like a marketing whiz, or you're a marketing, I don't know who's a marketing whiz.
Me.
I'm not a whiz at anything.
I have ideas and then I go make that.
Ask him how many emails they got.
That's awesome. Yeah, so maybe I need to just be in Louisville or Shelbyville or somewhere closer to Louisville. Maybe
Exactly.
that's where my market needs to be.
Other questions?
You guys know that we love you and we wouldn't bring anybody here that we didn't think would take good care of our own family, because you're our family. We've said it to you a million times, we mean it sincerely. So I hope you learned a little something, and I hope you enjoyed it, and we have food.
It's all healthy, organic
food.
food.
Restaurant, so come grab